Stop thinking what you're thinking. What? You might be asking me, how can I stop thinking what I'm thinking? Well, guess what? You did it. The moment you were thinking something and I told you to stop thinking it, you start thinking, what is she thinking? What is she telling me to do? That right there is changing your thoughts. We actually have the power to control our thoughts. We can take whatever we're thinking and replace it with another thought. Why is this so important? Well, our thoughts affect our speech, which affect our actions. Have you ever heard of this term of like self-fulfilling prophecy? So guess what? The self-fulfilling prophecy idea is that what I'm thinking is going to affect what I'm saying, and what I say really does affect my actions and how I behave, which affects the outcomes in what I'm doing. Because if I'm thinking I'm a failure and I start talking that I'm a failure, guess what? I'm going to act like a failure. I'm not going to even try. And yet if I think to myself, wait a minute, with God's help, I can do this. And I start saying, with God's help, you know what? I can do this. Like, this is going to be great. So then my actions make it in such a way that, you know what? I try and I make it as great as I can. In this week's Parshat Shelach, Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of Am Yisrael, knows that we're about to enter Eretz Yisrael. And he gathers 12 very prestigious, very important men, one from each tribe. And he says, okay, I want you to go check it out, like a military kind of tactic. Just check out Eretz Yisrael. We know we can be able to be going in there. God promised it to us. He's going to give it to us. Just go check it out. See what's going on there. 10 of them came back with a report about the land that was very depressing, overwhelming. They said it's a land that consumes its inhabitants, and they said there's no way we can do this. We're like grasshoppers in the eyes of these giants. 10 men had a certain thoughts. According to some commentaries, what were these thoughts? These thoughts were like, wait a minute, I believe God. I know he can do anything. Look, he split the sea open for us. He killed the Egyptians. He sent them some frogs, all kinds of plagues. But you know what? We're not deserving of this. Like, we messed up. We did this whole thing with the golden calf. And you know what? We can't enter. There's no way we can do it. We can't like live in this country of Israel. It's just not going to be possible. We can't do it. We don't deserve it. We can't do it. Hyping themselves up in their minds, and then they started speaking like this, which ended up leading to the men of Israel crying and weeping and saying, we just can't do this. And guess what? They didn't go in. They didn't merit to go into Eretz Yisrael. The thought led to speech, which led to an action. Wow. 2 men, however, did enter. They actually said, wait a minute, we can't go in. And what was going on behind their thoughts? What kind of thoughts were they putting into their head? Well, Kalev, who went and he prayed by the graves of the foremothers and the forefathers, and his thoughts were in one of, let me connect to my ancestors and the promise that God gave us. And one was Yeshua, who always sat by his teacher and was constantly poured into his mind of thoughts of, yes, Amuna, Hashem, I know, I believe, I trust, and I believe in the promise that you gave us. We can do this. The other 10, unfortunately, they fell victim to their thoughts. It's intense. What is this telling us? Once again, that what we think affects what we speak, which affects what we do. We have to be so careful with our thoughts. The moment you have a negative thought that comes in your head, what can you do? You can replace it with another thought. You can also turn around the thought. For example, they were coming back with these huge fruits. Big grapes, big pomegranates, kind of to prove like, oh my goodness, this is like a crazy place. Look at, like, it's got these huge fruits. It's too much for us to carry. I can't carry these grapes. They're too heavy. And yet I can look at these same grapes that were huge and I say, wow, I can make a lot of grape juice with that. There's a lot of blessing there. There's a lot of abundancy. Look at what God has given us. What he's promising us. It's going to be great. So therefore, once again, our thoughts affect our speech, which affect our actions. And we have to be so careful with our thoughts. We have to be so careful with what we say. And of course, we have to be careful in the way we act. Have a beautiful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.